Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Facebook Live in our third annual summer series of Facebook. I am so excited to be here again tonight. If you're just joining, my name is Jen Bengal, and I am the owner of Out of This World Literacy. I create literacy resources for teachers in mostly grades 1 through 6, but also in middle school. So I'm excited that you're hopping on. Feel free to say hello to me in the question section. We've been doing some Facebook Lives several times throughout the course of June. You can check previous live webinars by going into my Facebook section and clicking on the video section. You'll see all kinds of previous Facebook Lives from this summer as well as the last 2 summers, so you can binge watch as much as you'd like. Today we're going to be talking about a 4-step process to get everyone in your class writing. So if you are like me, then you probably have a hard time getting everyone in your class to write. And sometimes teaching writing is really difficult because it's so subjective. Kids need to write about things that matter to them, and it's really hard to get them to do that. It's not like math where there's one way to do something or a couple different ways to do something and then you get the same answer. Writing is totally different, so it's really hard to teach. Hi Marisol, hello, I'm glad you're on here. Hi Heather, hi Shelby, welcome. So today I'm going to show you in 4 steps how I get all of my students writing in my classroom, even the reluctant ones. And this is a really great process. I've used it in grades 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 actually, as both a teacher and a literacy coach. A little bit of my history while everyone's just hopping on really quickly. When I first became a teacher, I didn't know how to teach writing at all. I thought teaching writing meant that you gave your students a social studies assignment and they wrote their answers. Like, I taught writing today. I had no idea. But I did know that I was missing out. I did know that I had a huge gap in what I was doing with my kids that first year when I was teaching 4th grade. I knew I needed to do more with writing, but I had no idea how. And so after that first year, I kind of made it my mission to learn how to teach writing. And I went out and read a bunch of books. And when I went through my graduate degree, I learned a bunch about teaching writing. And then when I trained with Irene Fountas in Boston for a few years, I really learned how to teach writing and actually went from not teaching it at all to being my favorite subject to teach. So I have a lot to share with you. And so this 4-step process is pretty cool. Without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and jump into what I do with my kids and how I transition them into becoming writers. And what I'll tell you is sometimes it starts out in reading workshop. There is a strong connection between reading and writing. In order to be strong writers, our kids need to see the reading element as well. So what I do is I started out in reading workshop because a lot of times that's a lower level type of thinking. The kids are doing things like identifying what writers do, making opinions about what writers do, but they're not actually doing the work of writing yet. So it's really good to start talking about things that writers do inside of your reading workshop, and that will help get them thinking about how they can do their own writing as well. Hello, Ashley. I'm so glad you're here. And she said, I need to know how to teach writing. I feel you. I was so you when I was a first-year teacher, second-year teacher, and even 3rd and 4th-year teacher. I was feeling the same way. So this is what I do. This is my 4-step process. First, it starts off in reading class, and I might have to read a little bit to you in order to make this work. I have my notes here with my highlighter. I want to make sure I tell you everything the way that I do it. Okay, so there's a 4-step process. I start in reading class. What I do is I really carefully choose a book that I want to read to my class. It can be a picture book, or it can be a section from a chapter book, or some sort of informational magazine article even. And I think about what my students' interests are, and then I pick a book that's going to be a strong connection to them. This is very important in their writing. So start by thinking, what is a picture book that you can read to your class that they will make strong connections to? One that I always used year after year that I could help my students write with, it's called Ira Sleeps Over. Have you heard of it? It's by Bernard Waber, which is W-A-B-E-R. It's an old book, but it's really awesome for getting kids to start writing. It's called Ira Sleeps Over. You can check it out on Amazon. I'm sure they have it. So what I do is I'll read a book like that. So I'll read Ira Sleeps Over, for example, to my class. And then what I'll do is as I'm reading it, I'll get really excited about the story. I'll start talking about things the writer did while I'm reading. Wow, the writer used such good language on this page. Oh, I love how the writer talked about this way that Reggie was feeling when the story's about a boy who didn't know if he should bring his blankie to his very first sleepover or not. And he was hemming and hawing. He didn't know if he should do it. And his older sister kept saying, oh, he's going to laugh at you. You shouldn't bring it. So he's tortured by this decision he had to make to bring this blanket or not. And I'll read this to my 5th graders or my 6th graders, and they love it. So I'll just get really excited about it. I'll start talking about connections I have to the book. And then towards the end of the book, after I'm done reading, I'll ask the students to make their own connections. So in this example, you might use a different book, but the one with Reggie and Ira Sleeps Over, I'll ask the kids if they can make a connection to feeling like they had something special that they have slept with when they were little, or they know a cousin who has a blankie that they never let go of, or something like that. And I'll have them talk with a partner. So I'll ask my class, I'll say something like this after reading. I'll say, this is the second step. I'll say, turn and talk with a partner about a special something that you have or had when you were little that you always slept with. Or maybe you know a brother or a sister or a cousin. I always give them a little out like that too. And then they're talking with a partner now. I've engaged them in the story. I've got them really thinking about those things that are special to them that they sleep with, the puppy, stuffed animal, whatever it is. And they'll talk with a partner about that special connection. And if it's not something they have, they always know somebody, like their little cousin or something, who has something silly they sleep with, so they can talk. And the kids go on, and I let them talk with a partner. So everybody's actively involved. I'll give them a good couple of minutes to keep talking with their partner. And this helps me notice who's not having a really strong conversation right now. I'm going to probably go over and give them a little guidance in their conversation, or maybe think about, I might need to give them a little more support here when I transition. So after I give them a minute or so to share with their partner, then I call everyone back together. And I say, all right, let's start talking about what you shared with your partner. Who can tell me something their partner said about a stuffed animal? And it can be anything from the book that you read that they were really excited about. And they'll share what their partner said, which is great to help them keep remembering. They have to have good listening skills to remember what their partner said. And everyone's going to want to share, because everyone's going to have these great stories, and they're going to be funny, and they're going to be all about like something they really want to share with the class, right? And this is the 3rd step. So in the 4th step is where the magic happens. So what I do is I call on 3 or 4 kids to share, and I get really into it. I'm like, wow, that's such a cool thing to sleep with, or I love that story. That's so neat. And everybody's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And they want to share too. And I'll look at my watch and I'll say, oh, you know what, boys and girls? I don't have a lot of more time. I want to hear what you all have to say, though. Everybody has something to say, and I really want to hear it. I don't have enough time. So then I'll say something like this. I know you all want to share with the class, and I really want to hear what you have to say, but we have a problem. We don't have enough time today to listen to what everyone has to share out loud. I know what we can do. Let's all write down exactly what we're planning to share with the class in our writer's notebooks. So whatever you're about to say with your hand up and your tongue is just dying to tell us what you were thinking right now, let's put it in our notebook. And then that way we can save our thoughts and we can share them with each other at a later time. And so I immediately take the kids and have them either start writing right there at the carpet what they were going to say when their hands were up. And by writing, I don't mean they have to write a perfect paragraph. I don't mean there have to be perfect spelling. It doesn't even have to be in sentences. It can just be a list of thoughts that they were going to say, but they just all write it down right there. And everybody is writing. And then I follow that up by saying, wow, look at you all writing. You are all writers. It is amazing how much you have to say. I cannot wait to read all of these things. I can't wait for you to share with the class everything you have to say. I think this is amazing, and I love that you're writing your thoughts down. That's what writers do. They write their thoughts down, and then they turn them into something great. And you've all just become writers in the classroom today. How cool is that? And that's how I get everybody transitioned into writing in our class, and starting right there, building their confidence as writers. And what's great about that book, Ira Sleeps Over, is by being vulnerable with your partner and talking about something you sleep with or a blankie or something, you're building this classroom community that we're not going to laugh at you if you have something interesting to share or think. And so it's a really great activity to do at the beginning of the year even too. And then just start building that writing confidence, because so many kids who are reluctant writers just don't even see themselves as writers. Start addressing them as writers. Start talking to them about, wow, that's a really great thing you have to say. Nobody has a writing voice like you in this world. It's like our fingerprints. We all have something different. We all have something of value we can add that people want to hear. And I'm so excited that you're starting to write these things down and just start talking in that way. I love that too. So that's my idea, to get all four, everybody writing. And yes, this will, Kathy said, will this be available as a video? I may need to go back up. I may need to go pick up someone. Absolutely. This is always going to be a replay. So you can watch this as a replay. I do have a couple of questions that I'm going to answer from teachers. So people in my curriculum group have been sending me questions, and I've been answering them on every Facebook Live. So I have 3 tonight. This one comes from Amy Sumrak. Amy, I don't know if you're in here, but she asked, I would like to incorporate book clubs in my 4th grade classroom next year. What is the best way to start them while still using guided reading groups? So how can I start book clubs and still have guided reading groups is the question that Amy is asking. If you use book clubs in your class or literature circles, then maybe you can put some advice in the comments too. But my answer, this is what I did when I was a teacher in the classroom and I used book clubs, is I would get the kids in my guided reading group who I wanted to be in this group together. I would have them come to me first, and then I would show them exactly what I expected them to do on their own. So whatever book we were reading, we would actually go through all of the steps and what I wanted them to do in that literature circle or book club, and we would practice it together. And then the next time that I met with that group in my guided reading group, I would assign somebody to be the leader for the day, and then they had to go through all of the steps with the group. And I used to do this. I would say, I'm not here. Now pretend I'm not even here, and I want to see if you can handle this without me. And sometimes they were good on the first try. Other times we had to get together one more time to practice. But once they were ready and I felt confident that they were ready to go off on their own, then when I was seeing a guided reading group, they were off doing their own book club. And a lot of times what would happen is while my kids were reading silently in my guided reading group, I would just quickly go over there and check on them. And I always had somebody be a leader each time, a different leader. And I would ask the leader, how's it going? Are we doing good? And then if they needed any help, I'd give them a quick guidance. But usually they didn't, because they were so well trained in my guided reading group to go off and do that. And I would check in on them either while my group was reading silently or in between guided reading groups. I'd pop over and check in on them. And I always had them do like a reflection sheet at the end too. So that's how I got my book clubs going. And you can still do guided reading too. Hi, Libby. Hi, Priscilla. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. The next question is from Amanda Pressler. Amanda says, is it better to teach ELA each day for half an hour or spend longer times and fewer days? I love this question. I've been getting so many scheduling questions lately. I'm actually going to be doing a special Facebook Live all about scheduling. I'm going to show you slides of how I would recommend setting up your schedule for a 90-minute block, a 2-hour block, a 3-hour block. I'm going to talk about all kinds of different things that I'm not sure when I'm going to do it, but I'll let you know ahead of time, and you'll always be able to watch that one as a replay. So scheduling is like super important. I know it's on everybody's mind for next year. So I'm going to do that Facebook Live with some slides and show you some schedules. And actually that one's going to have some freebies on it too. So that is coming. But to answer this question right away, Amanda, if you have the choice of doing 30 minutes of reading every day or an hour 2 or 3 times a week, I would honestly recommend doing it every day. Kids really need reading instruction every single day, even if it's only 30 minutes. And I have a little thing. This is going to be a handout I know this is backwards, but you'll get to see this in my Facebook Live I do about scheduling. It's going to be a special one. If you only have a 30-minute block for reading, let me tell you what I would do. I would set up an A-B schedule. So day A and day B for your reading. So your reading workshop, you're going to see them every day for 30 minutes, but it's going to be on a kind of an A-B rotation. So on day A, you're going to do for 10 minutes, you'll do a mini lesson on a reading skill that your entire class needs support on. And then the second thing you'll do the next 20 minutes is have your independent time where you're seeing groups and the kids are reading or they're in a center or a literature circle. So 10 minutes of a mini lesson, 20 minutes of independent time. That would be your A day. And then your B day, you would get together right away and do a share. So you would have the kids for about 10 minutes share what they did the day before, what they wrote in their notebooks or what they did on a graphic organizer, what learning they made from the lesson from the day before. Do that for the first 10 minutes and then spend about 5 minutes just reviewing the mini lesson from the day before, review the anchor chart, review the skill, talk a little bit more, maybe show one more example of that. And then the last 15 minutes of your B day can be the independent time. So your A day, you have 20 minutes of independent time, and your B day, you have 15 minutes. Where on your B day, maybe you're doing reading conferences that 15 minutes, or maybe a quick guided reading group, or maybe a tier 2 intervention. And on your A day, maybe you do a longer guided reading group. But I would definitely try and do it every day. So that's the kind of A-B rotation. And I'm going to talk about this in that special webinar that I'm in, or not webinar, that special Facebook Live that I'm going to do all about scheduling. I haven't scheduled it yet. Kind of ironic, right? Okay, the last question today comes from Sarah Vreeland. And Sarah says, it's another scheduling question, y'all. She says, if I only have 50 minutes for 5th grade ELAR, what are some ways I can combine TEKS to make the most of my time? Thanks. So what I would do, I know that's Texas standards. I would take the standards and I would turn each standard into a mini lesson. And here is my framework for a 45-minute reading schedule. This would be more appropriate for you. What I would do, start out the first 10 minutes with your mini lesson. So use the TEKS standards to create a mini lesson that is appropriate for your grade level across the board. You don't need to worry about the students' individual reading levels at this point because the books that you're going to be sharing as mentor text, you're reading to them. The conversation is going to be around those books, so they're going to be exposed to grade appropriate books that they don't have to worry about decoding, and they can still comprehend and talk about the meaning of. So you'll be doing that in your mini lessons, and that'll be 10 minutes. And then for a half an hour, you can have independent time. So for 30 minutes, you can have kids reading, you can have kids in literature circles, you maybe do a 20-minute guided reading group and 10 minutes of conferencing, maybe you do a 20-minute guided reading group and a 10-minute tier 3 intervention with a student. Maybe you do 215 to tier 2 intervention. So you could play around with what's going on inside of that time, but you're gonna have about a half an hour. And then 5 minutes at the end for a share. If you have a 50-minute block, that can be 10 minutes at the end for a share. And so a 10-minute mini lesson, 30 minutes independent, 5 or 10 minutes for your share would be what I would do if I had a 50-minute block. Okay, guys, that's all I have for you today. Brenda's giving me the thumbs up, so I'm glad you're liking this. Sabina, thank you. Hello, Kristen. Hi, Julie. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Gail. Don't worry, you're late. You know what? I double booked myself. I was supposed to be live at 8 o'clock, and I forgot that I have a fluency webinar in just about an hour, so I couldn't be in 2 places at one time. So the fluency webinar is actually the first time I'm hosting it, so I'm always really nervous the first time I host a webinar, but I'm really excited about it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to talk about reading fluency. I'm going to break down the 6 characteristics of fluency, and I'm going to give you 11 different ways that you can improve students' reading fluency. I'm also going to give you 4 pages of kind of checklists that you can look over. If a student is struggling with fluency while they're reading silently, you'll have like all these questions to ask. If you're wondering if the student's struggling, how do I know? I'm going to give you some really great support on that. So hopefully you can come to that webinar. You can still register. It's in an hour if you're watching live at 7:30 p.m. Central, but it's also tomorrow morning too at 10 a.m. So if you can't make tonight, maybe you can make tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and that's Central Time. So it's going to be back to back, and then I'm not going to do it again until I think mid-July. So come to tonight or tomorrow's if you want to learn about fluency. That's all I have. I will be back live again tomorrow night. What am I talking about? Let's see what I'm talking about. If you only saw all these papers over here, oh my goodness. Tomorrow I am talking about, oh, this is a good one. I'm talking about the questions that interrupt students' thinking. I'm talking about how we can interrupt our students' thinking. And this is something Irene Fountas taught me when I was training with her that kind of blew my mind. So I wanted to share it with y'all too. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow and answer more teacher questions. That's all I have for you tonight. I'm going to go get ready for the fluency webinar. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I'll see you back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central, or I'll see you in the webinar for fluency. Take care. Have a great night, everybody.